Uh, hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to another movie review from your boy GorTheMovieGod. That's me. Don't do these too often, but I felt like I needed to for this one because if you do not know, I'm a huge fan of the first two movies in this franchise. Fourth one had some good stuff in it. Not great, but good. I liked it. Fifth one can blow me, and the third one is the worst of the franchise in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I think the third one is the worst because of what it does to the second movie. And of course, that franchise I'm talking about is the Saw franchise, of course. Now, Terminator. This one is Terminator Dark Fate. Okay, they had to put Fate in there. To be fair, the first one that had Fate in the title, I guess, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they talk about fate in every single movie. I'm surprised it took this long to put fate in the subtitle. But this is the sixth movie. Technically the third movie because they decided, rightfully so, to forget what happened in the third, fourth, and fifth movies. The fourth one happened in the future and stuff, so it didn't really need to forget all that stuff, kinda, if you really think about it. But the third and fifth ones, it just completely erased, especially since the fifth one tried to completely change the timeline and stuff and just messed it up completely. Had two actors that just didn't do the two characters that are playing justice. I'm talking about, of course, Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. I like Emilia Clarke, but I just didn't think she was very good. John Courtney is, he's kind of a he's okay, I guess. I don't mind him. I like him in Spartacus. But anyway, I'm here to talk about Dark Fate, the first movie since the second movie to have any involvement from James Cameron. I think he was kind of involved a little bit with the last one, but he didn't write it, he didn't produce it. He just I think he was in a commercial saying yeah, it was really good. I'm like, how much money did they give you, bro? Did you need the rest of the budget for Alita Battle Angel? That's why you did that? I don't know. But anyway, we have the new one here. And it stars my girl, Linda Hamilton, as Sarah Connor again. It's been a little while. They negated what happened in the third movie where supposedly she died and whatever, which is ridiculous. It's stupid as hell. But they decided to get rid of that. That doesn't exist anymore. And now we have Linda Hamilton in her 60s being badass, fighting robots. Or Terminators. And of course, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's back just like he was back in the last movie. Of course, that's the classic line. I'll be back. Yeah, he made a promise. He's back one last time, at least. And most likely the last time because this movie bombed this weekend, boy. Whoo! Whew. I don't think we're going to be seeing another movie anytime soon. And if we do, it'll be a lower budgeted film like the original movie, which I would very much prefer, to be honest. But just leave well enough alone. Anyway, we have Dark Fate here, and I'm not going to sit here and immediately tell you it's a terrible movie. I know a lot of people really don't like this film. Critic-wise, it has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually way better than any of the last three movies, I think, right? Actually, no. The third one, for some reason, has a 65%, even though it's the fucking worst one, in my opinion, but whatever. Anyway, my opinion. That's just my opinion. But this one, decent reviews from critics, not that bad, not great, but not bad. But audience members aren't really liking it, and I can see a lot of reviewers on YouTube hating it and stuff. And I don't really see that. I do agree that it is very sloppy at parts, that's for sure. And I didn't really care for the story, which is upsetting because the first two movies, again, stories, excellent movies. You care for the characters, you want to see them prevail. The action isn't so over the top where it doesn't feel completely unrealistic. I mean, sure, you have a robot and a liquid metal man chasing after a kid, but whatever. Or the first one's not a kid, but whatever. Chasing after people. But it still had some realism to it. It wasn't just oh, now we're at the Hoover Dam and I exploded and stuff. Oh my God. Oh, now we jumped off in a Humvee. Oh, we're parachuting down in a Humvee. This is all stuff that happens in this movie. So it's not so over the top that it becomes okay, it's just action movie. Terminator 1 is a horror movie. Terminator 2 is a kind of a buddy action horror movie, part horror movie, mostly action. That's what James Cameron likes to do. He likes to make a sequel and make it an action movie more than a horror movie. Not that he directed Alien. That's what I'm referencing, but whatever. Anyway, he directed Aliens and made that into an action film. Whatever. Anyway, you have Dark Fate here, which has all the over-the-top action you expect, especially after that last movie, Genesis, which went over the top. But unlike Genesis, this movie still has some part of a heart to it. There's a little bit to it. And I have to give major credit to both Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, both reprising their roles as the Terminator and Sarah Connor. Of course, Arnold is not the same Terminator he was in the past, but what they do with his character I actually really liked. He doesn't show up until like an hour and a half into the movie, but time he shows up, you're like, oh good, breath of fresh air, because I was kind of getting tired of just walking around and stuff, and there's a lot of just walking around. The pacing's very slow at times, I think. Finally, Arnold, thank God, and he shows up, and it's really fun what they do with him. I really like what he did with the character. They did with the character, and Arnold is great, of course. He has that deadpan thing spot on. He's been playing this character for what, 35 years at this point, so he knows how to play this character, and he does a great job. And there's a similarity between his version of the T-800 in this movie and the one he played in Genesis. They took the good stuff from Genesis with that character, which I liked some of that, and they made it even better here with less screen time, so that's even more impressive because he had less screen time, but it was still so I like that stuff. Linda Hamilton, first time you see her, badass completely. First time you actually see her, technically, is they de-age her to make her look like how she looked in the early 90s, which was very impressive. I thought that de-aging effect was one of the best I've ever seen, actually. And I know Marvel does that all the time with, like, Robert Downey Jr. and Michael Douglas. But, whew, this one looked really good. So I saw her, I was like, is this a deleted scene or something? They just used it and like cut her out of it, kind of like what they're doing with Carrie Fisher in the new Star Wars. But I was like, no, this is CG. And you even see a CG John Connor and stuff. The less said about that, the better. But whatever, you see a CG as John Connor, I was like, whoa, this is really well done. Oh, my God. I would say most of the CGI, for the most part, couple of iffy ones, but for the most part are really good in this movie, so that's a major plus right there. Even Genesis had some pretty good special effects, but this one really good. Linda Hamilton shows up. She's badass. She's saying fuck. This movie's rated R, so they don't screw around like the last two movies did, where it's not rated R and they're just saying freak and damn and maybe a couple shits here and there. No, she fuck, she's just dropping F-bombs everywhere. Her whole story is actually very interesting because of what happened to her early in the movie. So later on, when you see her again, reintroduced into the movie as 60-something-year-old Sarah Connor, she comes in, she's badass, and then you immediately feel for her. You already feel for her because you've seen two movies, you've seen a whole TV series based on her. It wasn't Linda Hamilton, but it was Haiti or whatever. But you see a whole TV show based around her and two movies. You care for her immediately when she shows up and you see it's Linda Hamilton. It looks like her. She's being badass. She's playing Sarah Connor again. You're just like, there you go. It's good stuff. But I am really happy to see that they didn't screw up Sarah Connor. Screwed her up in the third one by just axing her off, saying, she died off screen. Like, it's only been like 15 years or something, maybe 20, but she's dead. Whatever. She died. Don't worry about it. Okay, I think they said she had cancer or something, which is like, come on, don't do that. She's one of the best characters. That's like in Alien 3 when they said, fuck Hicks and Newt, they're dead. They just died. It's like, what is with James Cameron series where they make characters that are awesome in their sequels, like even more awesome than they were in the original movies, and then they decide, kill them off. Not that Hicks was in Alien 1, and that was also freaking Michael Biehn, whatever. I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry. But anyway, the special effects are great. Linda Hamilton is great. She doesn't have a lot to do later on in the movie, which is kind of annoying. Kind of makes sense though, because it seems like it's focusing more on some of the other characters, like the new character, this augmented soldier that comes from the future. It got sent to the past to help this girl Danny, who's like the new John Connor in a way. And she has to help her, so she's like the main focus. Grace and Danny, those are the two main focuses. They're trying to build those characters because they're new. So Sarah Connor does kind of take a back seat to a lot of that stuff, and even her subplot, her little story, kind of takes a back setting, because I really wanted it just to be about Sarah Connor. I mean, you look at the original poster. I mean, look at this poster. She's the biggest part of this poster, but you look at the original poster for this, it's just her. And I'm like, yeah, Sarah Connor's back, baby. It's going to be just her, and maybe Arnold. That's good. I like that. Yeah, comb that hair. A lot of people wonder why I comb my hair. It just bothers me. I don't know why. When it goes here, it just like, I don't know, it just bothers me. Anyway, so yeah, Linda Hamilton is great. Arnold is great, of course. I really like what they do with his character. I think the action, especially the first action scene, which is a whole big fight in this warehouse or this factory, and then it transitions to a chase scene. I think is really well done. Mackenzie Davis, who plays Grace, the augmented soldier that comes back to the past to help Danny, the new John Connor, like I said. I think she's really good in the movie. I think she does really good stuff with the action. She obviously bulked up, and she looks battle ready, and I think she's really good. I think she's not as good as like a Sarah Connor or anything when it comes to badass female heroes, but I like her in this film. I think she was pretty good. There's times where her personality gets a little annoying, but she's a soldier, so I could be like, her being a hard ass makes sense. I mean, Sarah Connor's a hard ass too, but I know that character more than I know the Grace character, so I like the Sarah character more just because. But yeah, she was good. She was good. I liked her character. I do like that it was R rated. Excuse me. I thought it was a good idea to make it R rated, but don't go too far with the R rating like the first two movies did. They didn't go too crazy. There's even times in the first movie it's R rated where you see T-800 Arnold shoot a person and you don't even see him really shoot it, just like close up on his face as he's shooting somebody. And I thought that was really well done in that first movie where it's rated R. You get to see some R-rated shit, and you're not gonna overindulge in that because that's not what the point of the movie is. The point is like this robot's scary. We don't need to see him shoot a person in the head. We don't need to see the bullet hole in the brain. You know what I mean? You do see some of that. Don't get me wrong, but it's not overly violent. And the same thing here. I mean, you do see some blood here and there, but for the most part, it's not bad at all. It's like they could have easily trimmed out some of the curse words in this every time Sarah says fuck, and have a PG-13. Maybe a harder PG-13 than most, but it could have easily been PG-13. But I like that they didn't overindulge in violence. There's a little bit. They can cut some of that out, some of the curse words, and make a PG-13, but it felt realistic enough for whenever someone actually uses a curse, like a fuck or shit or whatever. It felt realistic. Like it's a time when they would actually use it. It's not like all know they're in the R-rated movie and they're just like they're gonna say fuck every 5 seconds, but whatever. Anyway, the R rating I like that they didn't really use it too much. And another thing I really enjoyed about this movie is that it actually felt more like the original two Terminator movies. While they do kind of screw with the ending of the second movie, which we'll talk about in a second, not as much as the third movie did, where they said, yeah, you remember when no fate for what we make or whatever, screw that shit. Judgment Day is happening. This movie kind of does that too, but at least it doesn't completely disqualify what happened in the second movie. We'll talk about that in a second. But I do like that it feels more like a Terminator film. It feels a little bit more gritty. There's a lot more action, a lot more badass like slow motion stuff. But some of that stuff is actually really well done. Again, I said the action in the beginning with that first action scene is really good. I think the final action scene is actually pretty good and actually intense. I like that everybody teams up and stuff at the end, which is really nice. I don't know why. They just felt more like a Terminator movie. Just something about it felt more like a Terminator movie than that last one and the third one. The fourth one, I thought Terminator Salvation really tried to do something different, and I really salute them for trying, but it just wasn't amazing. It was kind of slow and boring at times. Which is upsetting because I really wanted that movie to be good. I remember I was the most excited for that movie of any movie that year. I was like, oh my God, the trailers look so good. I love Terminator. This looks like it's like the next evolution. It's gonna say fuck Terminator 3. This is the good stuff. No, not really. It was still good though. I compared 5 and 3. It was great. But yeah, I would say this movie's definitely better than Salvation. It's an entertaining movie. It feels more like a Terminator film. Arnold and Linda Hamilton are great. I think Mackenzie Davis as the new star is really good. I thought the action for the most part was really good. There's a couple of slow, I would say like the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes, all the action in those sections of time are great. Then the middle hour, there's some good scenes here and there when it comes to action, but it becomes a little bit more routine, a little bit more, I don't know, unoriginal and not as exciting. When I'm talking about action, there's good moments here and there, especially with Arnold when they meet him. Even though there's a lot of other slow moments where it's just like, stuff just not happening and characters supposedly having character development, but not really. It's just like little things like that. Didn't really care for that stuff. But now let's get to the actual cons, okay? Let's talk about how it ruins I shouldn't say it ruins Terminator 2's ending. That's too negative to say. I don't think it ruins it, but it does take what happens at Terminator 2 and says, yeah, but then this happens. Okay, I don't want to say what happens, but let's just say certain characters don't make it very far in this movie is in the beginning, and it's really upsetting what they do to one character. It's just like I watched Terminator 2 so many times in the last like 20 something years of my life. Like, even when I was a kid, I watched that movie. And just seeing what they do with a certain character, this is supposed to be the official sequel, is just like what they did with The Force Awakens to some characters was good because they built it up in the movie. It's like, oh, and then when it happened, you're like, oh my god. Here it's just literally first few minutes, someone dies. Not gonna say who. You should be able to figure it out because they're not on the fucking poster and they're not in any of the trailers and nobody's talking about it in reviews because unless they're doing a spoiler review, I guess. But it's in the first 3 minutes. It's not a spoiler. I'm telling you, you should know this ahead of time that a certain character is not in the movie, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It just sucks. I feel like it just ruins what happens in the... I mean, it's sad in a way, but they don't treat it as a sad thing. Like, oh, everything that happened in Terminator 2 didn't matter, or whatever. Or oh, no, everything that happened in Terminator 2, and it just leads to this. Oh, no, this character... It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's just motivation for another character to really want to destroy Terminators. You know, it's just like, I don't know. I felt like it made Terminator 2 a little bit more hollow. When I watch Terminator 2 again, I'll just be like, 3 minutes after this movie ends, the next movie doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, if it was like halfway through this movie that happens, then I'll be like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like, whoa. Oh, I never saw it, but it's in the first 3 minutes. We didn't even get some time to be reintroduced to that character, let alone just, fuck it. Whatever. No one's seeing this movie. Who cares? Okay. Another thing I don't like is that the whole Skynet thing is over, but now there's a new robot AI, crazy AI thing out there. It's not Skynet. Now it's called Legion, which is way more generic, but whatever. Now it's Legion, but they're exactly the same as Skynet. The only thing is that they sometimes make more like whatever the hell Rev 9 is in this one, the new Terminator, that guy right there that splits apart into two, which is cool. I like that it splits apart into two. They don't really use it too much in this movie, though. I thought they could use it a little bit more effectively. It's more like, oh, he just splits into two and fights. You know, I thought he would go use it more strategically, but not really. But whatever. Well, maybe he did. I don't remember. Whatever. And the point is that, I mean, there's a couple of different Terminators, but it looks like Skynet always made new Terminators anyway. I mean, look at the second one, the metal, the liquid metal. Then the third one, which I don't even know what the fuck she was. She was a Terminator underneath, kind of similar to this guy, where he's a robot underneath and then liquid metal skin around him. Except here, this one makes sense because he could split up into two, where the girl from the third one was just exactly what I said, a metal skeleton with liquid metal around. So once you get rid of the liquid metal, it's just a skeleton. So it was like weaker than the second movie, or the second character, the T-1000. I think it was the T-3000, right? Definitely not worth the extra 2,000 for that one, because that Terminator sucked. And I was a woman, that's cool. I mean, that's great, don't get me wrong. But not how you do it. Not how you do it by severely downgrading that one Terminator. At least it felt like it. I don't know. I haven't seen the third one in a long time, so please don't tell me like, oh, you don't understand the lore behind the third, the T-3000 or something. I don't want to know. And of course, then Genesis. Salvation was cool about it. They actually just had mainly just regular Terminators. They had some motorcycle ones and giant ones, but for the most part, you saw T-800s and stuff, and whatever. It was cool actually. I really liked Salvation when it came to the robots, the Terminators. But anyway, it's just Legion. It's a Skynet. They just have a different name, and they just wanted to do exactly the same thing as Terminator 1 and 2, but they know they couldn't because in 2 Skynet was dead. But they were just like, yeah, but there's another one. There's Legion. And another thing happens. They barely even explain it. And I know they wanted to make another trilogy of these movies, and most likely we ain't going to be seeing that shit. But to be fair, the way this movie ends, we don't even need a sequel. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of ends in just like there we go. We're done. Good stuff, guys. You know, it really does end like we don't need to see a sequel. We could, we don't need to, though. So at least you have that. It's not like ending on a big cliffhanger, you know? And if you really like this movie, you'd be like, oh no, I didn't make any money. I'm never gonna see this. You know, it kind of ends on just like there you go, I guess. So you have Legion, Skynet, it's the same thing. The movie itself, even though it does have a lot of moments that feel more like a Terminator movie where people are actually talking and having conversations that feel realistic. I should have mentioned that before too. Like Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, and Grace Mackenzie Davis. Their relationship in the movie is actually kind of fun because they don't like each other. Neither, Linda Hamilton does not like her. She doesn't like her. It's just like they don't like each other, which I think is fun. And it felt kind of like Terminator 2 a little bit with Sarah Connor and the T-800. Even though he didn't hate her at all, but the butting heads kind of thing, which you still get in this one with Sarah Connor and the new T-800, but whatever, which that's fun still. But anyway, they don't really do anything with that after a little while, but whatever. But the movie itself feels very, very familiar. It does. It really does. It feels like, I said this before, it does feel like Terminator Genisys, if they didn't do the whole timeline shit, kept the same kind of structure, and just made it have less references, because Terminator Genisys had so many references. I'll be right, I'll be back. Come with me if you want to live. There's a character in here that says, "Come with me if you want to not die," or something like that. And then there's another character that says, "I won't be back." There's references like that are kind of cute, and it's just like, I don't know. They weren't just straight up looking at the camera and saying a line that you all know. You know what I mean? You clap, yeah, I know that line. I'll be back. But yeah. Anyway, point is that it feels too familiar at times, and it feels too familiar to Terminator Genisys, and not even just Terminator as a franchise. It just feels familiar when it comes to action movies. You know exactly where it's gonna go. You know where the action beats and the story beats are going. It's predictable. It just feels familiar. Another thing I don't like is the new John Connor in this movie, Danny, who has this character where at first I was like, okay, I'm kind of with her. She's like she's the daughter of a single father, and she has a brother, and she's kind of like the motherly figure of the house or whatever. She actually like cooks and cleans and stuff, and like orders people around and stuff. Not like angrily orders people around, but says like, hey, can you do this? Can you do, I don't know, a good person, I guess. I don't know. You don't really get to know her too much before immediately Sarah Connor and Gray show up to try to get her not killed from a Terminator. And I don't know. Her whole character I found to be very generic and very boring. Where you have John Connor from the second movie, where he's really likable. He builds a relationship with the T-800, and here he has a relationship with Sarah Connor. Here you have Danny, who has a relationship with his brother, but that doesn't go very far. And you have the relationship with the father, that doesn't go very far. You have a relationship with Grace that soon builds, but it's not really a big thing. It's kind of like just, I don't know. It's barely in the movie. Like the whole character, like the whole development and chemistry between those two characters doesn't really exist that much. And the movie wants you to really believe that friendship kind of, but you don't really get it. Yeah, I just didn't like her. The actress is fine. I just didn't like her character, just didn't. And like I said before, there's a lot of really slow moments. The pacing really drags, especially in the middle, like hour of the movie. It's just like, okay, there's some good moments here and there, but it's like a lot of like, oh, we have to go and cross a border and do this and wait on a train, have people explain the backstory and stuff, and that stuff would be great if the dialogue was great, but it wasn't. It's very boring, very generic. You got a couple of future moments, which is really fun. I always loved the future stuff in Terminator. That's why I was so excited for Salvation. And it's pretty brutal. I really like what they show of the future, but there's just not enough. And also, there's a couple times where you see the set design of the future. There's especially a scene later on in the movie that I thought looked incredibly cheap. That was just like, it looked like something left behind from The Walking Dead. It's just like a crumbled building. It looks like shit. It was just like, I didn't feel like this is a future where an AI that made a giant robot army has taken over the world. It just felt like this is like a regular apocalypse. Like a zombie apocalypse. Terminators are definitely different than zombies. Zombies don't fucking go around destroying everything around them. They just eat. They hungry. But yeah, that's really all my negatives. There's some fun action. There's some great special effects. It feels more like a Terminator movie. The R rating, Grace is a likable character. Arnold and Linda Hamilton are great to see. But it just kind of ruins some of the stuff from Terminator 2, which is one of my favorite movies ever. So right there, that's a huge negative. Legion is just another Skynet. They don't do anything new there. It's very familiar to not just Terminator, just action films in general. The new main character, I guess, Danny, a character that's supposed to grow in the movie, I just never cared for. And there's a lot of slow moments, a lot of slow stuff where I'm just like, oh my god, just get to something interesting, please. And then it gets to some interesting sometimes, and then it kind of goes away from it and then comes back. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, that's my review for Terminator Dark Fate. If I had to give it a score, I did like a lot of it, and I think it is the best sequel. That's not the second movie, obviously. So I would have to give it a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. That's not bad at all. 7 out of 10 is pretty good, especially for Terminator. But it's not a great film. It's definitely not. And I don't even know if I really want to watch it again. Like, Terminator Genesis, I think I saw again in a theater just because I was like, let me watch that again. Maybe it'll be better. Yeah, anyway, that's it. Yeah, it's sad. This was probably going to be the last Terminator movie for a little while at least. So, that sucks. So anyway, there you go. That's it. Terminator Genesis. No, that's not what it's called. Dark Fate. That's it. Bye. Sucks. Someone do a low-budget Terminator reboot. I would love to see it. Just anybody. You could do it for like less than $1 million, most likely, if you're really good with money. I don't know.